Pat Boone here for the folks at Swiss America. Rock-solid foundations are vital in life, in business, and in finance because, in the end, only what we've built on a firm foundation will withstand the storms of life. Today, the economic storms are raging and the foundations of everything are being tested. The world economy has never looked shakier. And gold, the world's oldest and most trusted form of money, is also grabbing headlines. Now is the time to put your future on a rock-solid foundation. Swiss America will help you create an indestructible asset today. Discover the timeless truth about gold and silver by calling Swiss America or visiting online at SwissAmerica.com.
Call 800-614-7199, 800-614-7199, 800-614-7199, 800-614-7199.
Welcome to one of the most listened to music news podcasts in the world, SGNP, with your host, Darien Southerland. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, artists, and entertainers about their faith, family, and careers. This is information you will not find anywhere else on radio, web, or in a magazine, but only firsthand on SGNP.
We'll make sure I, point to the band, get everything going and laughing. And I feel something on my ankle, and I look down, and little Roy, he's now in his 70s. He's down on the floor, got his head on my ankle, rubbing on it like a cat rubbing on a person's leg.
And welcome back. Again, another great week, SGNP. Darien Southerland here with you in Metro Atlanta, Marietta, if you will. On the line with me on the Skype line up in Sevierville, Tennessee, at the heart of the Smokies, up there at Dollywood, Arthur Rice. Arthur, how's it going this week, my friend?
Hey, going good.
Does your family ever get a chance to see you during Harvest Festival, Arthur? I mean, you're so busy.
Yeah.
Are you busier at Dollywood?
If they want to see us, yeah, they come.
Are you busier at Dollywood now than you are during the other parts of the year? Is it all pretty much the same for you?
It's kind of the same. It kind of, by the end of the month, we get kind of tired physically, because we come out of September right into Quartet Convention, and that's a hard week, and then we roll right into Harvest Festival, and especially for me, because after Quartet Convention, I go in the studio and remix all of Quartet Convention, all the night stuff for the on-demand TV programs. And so I got another 2 weeks after convention, plus on top of being at Dollywood. So it's kind of it's a long week. So I'm going on vacation next week, so I'm ready for that.
Where are you going? So we can hire some of those political rugrats to holler at you when you go out to eat.
I'm going somewhere warm.
You go,
yes.
Florida?
Yes.
You getting on a ship?
No.
No?
Well, no, probably not.
You going on a cruise?
No. I'm just going to park my feet in the sand for a few days.
Go. We won't tell nobody where you're at, so you can relax. Last thing you want is for somebody to run up to you and say, "Hey, you're Arthur Rice with the King Damaris." "Oh, yes, I am." And then they start asking you 500 questions, and you're on vacation. I had a guy. This is funny. You just like you get a lot of questions from, singers and folks that want to get in the business. I had a guy that does interviews from time to time on his radio show text me the other day, and tell me if you've ever had this happen. And he said, "Darien, you've had the chance with SGNP to interview some of the biggest names in gospel music, and y'all have done it relatively quickly. What do you attribute it to?" And I said back to him, I said, "Well, I guess it's kind of like a preacher getting invitations to a church. I think the Lord orchestrates it, and folks open their hearts and open their doors to us. But then again, I think a lot of times is that the artists and the industry personnel we talk to realize that we're not only going to talk about gospel music and their careers, but we're going to talk about life. And that's what kind of makes it interesting. Truth of the matter is, Arthur, you guys love gospel music. You love singing. You love everything about it, okay?
Yeah.
You love being on stage. You love the musicians. You love the bass. You love the tenor, the baritone. You love the harmonies. But there comes a point when Arthur just needs to take a chill from it. Is that not correct?
Yeah, you gotta have downtime. You can't just keep giving and giving. You have to have a time when you kind of can step back and get just refreshed, really.
Yeah.
And just refresh yourself so that you don't get burnt out. With doing, because even we got a great message to spread, but the physical part of it, we get tiring, and so we have to kick back a little bit and get refreshed.
So next week or the next week or whenever you're going to be on vacation,
yeah,
I might. You know what? I think it's election week if the show dates add up right. You know who I might pull on to be my co-host when you're gone and talk politics with us?
Who's that?
I think I'm going to call you bass singer Jeff Chapman and get him on to talk politics. Would that help?
Oh, he likes to talk politics. That'd be good. That'd be good.
I'd just say, Jeff, turn it loose, buddy. Go ahead. Tell us what you think there, and I'll just throw some things out there. Jeff, what should they do with so-and-so? As we laugh and we cut up, at SGNP, one thing we love about doing this show, and we get to do this show and talk about things, but then we get to put things on social media, on the Southern Gospel News podcast, Instagram, and Twitter, and we get to have conversations with folks from time to time and see what they think. And it really is like steel on steel, because people come from different traditions, different cultures, different areas of the country, different areas of the world, really. And, Arthur, we're all going to the same place at the end of the day if we're saved by grace.
That's right.
And we need to major in the majors and minor in the minors, but it's funny and it's neat at the same time on how people in different parts of the country worship and live. But it's fun. It's fun. Talking about people that are different, talking about people that are funny. This next guy I'm going to interview today is one of your dear friends. You've known him for a long time.
Yep.
Tim Lovelace, okay? He says people call him Lovelace all the time, Lovelace. Am I getting that right, or is it the other way around? He said Bill Gaither messed it up years ago, and he's been stuck with it that way. But you know what? If Bill Gaither was to call you Opie, guess what you would be known as from then on?
Be Opie.
You'd be Opie.
Yeah.
It don't matter. It don't matter what you'd be called. But talk about Tim a little bit, Arthur.
Tim, he's one of the funniest guys I've ever been around. He's just on all the time, and he's brilliant at what he does, and does a great job. So, and he's such a great musician. When he was with the Florida Boys, and of course I knew he played several different instruments. And then when he left and went with the Kingsmen as the piano player, I never knew the man played piano.
Yeah.
And he played. I'm not just get by with it. I mean, he plays great. He's a great piano player, and I think he can play just about anything he picks up. And he's just a talented guy. And a lot of times that gets sidelined. A lot of times because of his comedy. But Tim is just a phenomenal musician. He really is.
Tim is opening doors for gospel music performers that you rarely hear about, and it's rarely applauded in the industry, which I think we need to applaud. Let me give you an example. Looking at his schedule, last month alone, he played the Washington State Fair.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, that's the far northwest corner. That's granola capital of the world, just north of Portland. How many gospel artists, Arthur, have you ever heard play the Washington State Fair?
Not many.
I mean, Johnny Appleseed went deep, okay, when he goes to Washington. I got a brother that lives in Seattle. That's a long ways away. But that just to shows you, and, he's doing things up in Canada. He's doing things all over the place. And you're right. He's a funny guy, phenomenal musician, good little writer, good little singer. Interestingly enough, and we'll talk about this more after the interview, he talks about how shy he was as a child and how he was bullied as a child. And now he's standing on front of stages all across America. Hey, Arthur, one quick thing I want to throw out there to everybody and remind them. A couple of weeks ago, we had Russ Taff on, who talked about his battle with alcoholism last month. We had a great conversation with Taranda Green Bean and talked about her bout with addiction. We've got some other folks lining up to talk about their bouts with different things. We've had artists actually come up to us, Arthur, and we're not going to mention names right now, but they come up to me and you and they said, hey, I want to talk about that with you guys one of these days. And at the same time, we've got a great sponsor, the Addiction Helpline. You'll hear their commercial in just a minute, but if you've got a family member, a friend, a coworker, or something of that nature that needs help, perhaps you just want to call and get the information for them and hand it to them. Pick up the phone and call this toll-free number, 1-800-980-1761. Grandparents, I want to say this to you that are listening. A lot of you got grandkids that are living in a society where methamphetamines and opioids and marijuana and all this and alcohol is just running rampant. Maybe you get the information and as an education standpoint, hand it to your grandkids this Christmas or holiday season. That'd be a good thing. 1-800-980-1761. And Arthur, if they hadn't seen the Russ Taff movie, they need to see it, don't they?
They need to go see it. You know, addiction is something that touches so many lives, from the smallest town to the largest town. It is a problem and an issue, and I'm thankful that we have people out there that will help with that, and they need to call.
You're exactly right. Not making light of addiction, but the only addiction we all need to be addicted to as Christians. Believe it or not, a gospel group didn't sing about this. You know who sang about it, Arthur?
Who's that?
Huey Lewis and the News. You remember those guys back in the day?
Yeah.
You know what addiction they sang about? You might as well face it. You're addicted to love.
Yep.
And as Christians, that's what we need to be addicted to. I asked the question, by the way, Arthur, a few weeks ago on Facebook. Our 4 points on Facebook and our show has always been to edify, to encourage, to inspire, and to entertain. And I said, what of those 4 points, what's the one that you want us to do more than anything else? And you know what the point brought out was? The number one vote was for?
What's that?
Edify, inspire, encourage, and entertain. Encourage was number one. People wanted us to be encouragement. Number 2, they wanted us to inspire. Okay? Number 3, they said edify. And number 4, entertain. Okay? We know it runs like that, but it may be different in you. And everybody listens to us for a different reason. So if they're listening to us for pure entertainment, boy, oh boy, they're hard up for a good time, though. You know? Oh, man. Let's go to the interview. But first, here's a message from our buddy Jeff Turner, the historian, along with the interview with the one and only Tim Lovelace right here on SGNP.
This is Josh Singletary with Tribute Quartet, and you're listening to SGNP.
Is someone you love playing a dangerous game of Russian roulette? Hey, this is Darren, and I'm going to tell you some personal information. I've got dear friends who are addicted to methamphetamines. I've got family members who overdosed from heroin and passed away. I've got relatives who suffer alcohol addiction and are alcoholics. You've heard from Russ Taft talk about his problem with alcoholism. Addiction is a scary thing. Anywhere in the country you think about it, addiction's a big problem. Right now, the Addiction Hotline wants to help you and your family. And with the new federal Family Medical Leave Act, you can get the help you deserve. Call the Addiction Hotline today, 1-800-980-1761, 1-800-980-1761, and talk to them about the help you, your friends, or your family may need. Heck, over 43,000 people die every year from drug overdose. 88,000 people die every year from alcohol abuse. 1-800-980-1761. 1-800-980-1761. If Russ Taff can stand on stage and then later admit, hey, I've got a problem with alcoholism, you can too. Get the help you deserve, and I promise you, your heart will be so much happier for it. not to mention your family and friends.
Hey, cousins, this is your pal, Country Radio Hall of Fame DJ Moby, and you're listening to my buddy Darien Southerland on SGNP.
Now,
yeah, baby.
Here's our announcer,
And that's the statesman's leader.
What's that name?
Hobie Lister.
and that crisper, flakier cracker, boys. What's that name?
Premium saltine.
Ah, you said it, so let's sing it now.
They're better baked and better wrapped. Premium saltine. Nabisco's crackers in the inner seal pack. Premium saltine.
When you think of funny people in gospel music, starting back in the 50s, there was a gentleman by the name of Cat Freeman, and not only was he a great singer, but he was known to be kind of a prankster and a jokester. And at this particular time, he was with Hobie Lister and the Statesman Quartet. And anybody knows about the Statesman back then, they loved to rehearse a lot. And Cat, he didn't take so much to that rehearsing bit. He'd rather cut up and have a good time. And as a result of that, Hobie ended up having to let Cat go. And then you had David Reese of the Rangers Trio. He was a real funny guy. And then Bill Hefner of the Harvesters. He was also very funny. But when you think of comedy and funny and gospel music, you right off the bat think of Wendy Bagwell. Back in the 60s and 70s, he was just a very funny guy. And then I also enjoyed when Glenn Payne and George Johnson of the Cathedrals would kind of banter back and forth with their comedy, their jokes on, picking at each other. I always thought that was kind of a funny thing. And then J.D. Sumner, back when he was with the Masters 5, he would do his record pitches, and anybody that's ever heard that, he'd have you in tears. It was so funny. And then Aaron Wilburn, who also traveled with the Goodmans. And then today, naturally, Mark Lowry and Dennis Swanberg. So that kind of wraps it up for all the funny people in gospel music.
Premium saltine. Nabisco's crackers in the inner seal pack. Premium saltine.
And welcome back to SGNP. Darien Southerland here. You heard the introduction earlier with me and Arthur going to talk to Tim today. And you heard our historian Jeff Turner talking about some of the great comedians and musicians of the gospel music world. And no doubt we have one here today who is setting a standard not only in gospel music, but within comedy circles these days, because his project has been #1 on Billboard charts, and we're proud that he's not only a great comedian, but a great gospel music artist and a great gospel music historian, and he's my friend, Tim Lovelace. Tim Lovelace. I did that on purpose, Tim. Tim Lovelace is with us.
We were talking about, yes, with Darien. I'm so glad to be with you. Yeah, we were kidding around and talking about that. Some people say Lovelace, some Lovelace. It is actually Lovelace. You said it right.
I said it right.
Yeah, of course you did it right. I'm doing good this morning, and I've got me a coffee over here about the size of a hot water bottle, and maybe a hot water heater, I'm not sure, and we're just going to have a good time there. Glad to be with you.
Tim, I got one quick question for you. You've been on the road how many years? How many years you been on the road now?
Oh, mercy. I don't know if it's between 35. I don't know. 30-something or more. I'm 184, but I started when I was 2, so you do the math.
Usually when somebody's on the road, they gain a little weight, my friend. But you know what? You've been about the same size, I reckon. Not that I'm looking you up and down or anything like that, but, son, you've been in pretty good shape to be somebody on the road. I mean, you ain't ate a lot of Crystal Burgers that don't look like, or either you've just got fantastic metabolism. How do you do that? Tell all the ladies listening, because we're all wondering, somebody that lives in a bus and out the back seat of a car, how they maintain such good shape and all that kind of good stuff.
Well, I don't know. I have to work on it. I say if I gain 10 pounds, the way that I'm built, if I gain 10 pounds, my arms and legs don't gain an ounce. If I gain 10 pounds, it just looks like I'm smuggling a bowling ball. So, but no, I do kind of watch it. I kind of eat like a junkyard dog. I'll skip a meal here and there, and then I'll load up all at one time. But I do kind of halfway watch it. The hardest thing for me, and probably most people, the hardest thing for me is trying not to eat too much late at night. And that's hard because sometimes I want to eat after a concert a complete Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah. At 11 o'clock at night, and I'm really hungry, and to try to maybe have a lighter meal, but I try to watch it, but it's an ongoing thing. I try to walk a little bit and keep it off a little bit. And Darren, I can say too, part of the reason is this. Yeah. There's never been a vein bone in my body. If I think I'm Cary Grant, then something's wrong with me. I mean, I don't have a vein. I don't have a vanity is not a problem, and pride, and I don't run around. I've never had an ego problem. But here's what I find, Aaron, doing the comedy. Yeah. And I'll go some places where it'll be a 2-hour show. A lot of places it's an hour and a half. I'll be by myself at a theater. I'm somewhere and I'm the only performer. They go an hour the first go round. We got a 15-minute intermission. Folks are coming back in, do an hour more. Well, I find if I'm just if I don't have the energy, if I hadn't been walking some, and kind of watched a little bit, I'm just, I'm worn out because I do a lot of physical comedy with what I do, and I'm running around and grabbing an instrument. So part of trying to halfway, not that I'm in shape, but halfway watch it is for my energy level.
Well, nice. How'd you get started, Tim? How'd you get started in all this? I know you were the Florida boys, but where did it start before that? Where did Tim start back in the day?
Well, my mom and dad were they traveled as evangelists way back in the 50s and went up to Canada and Portland and out west and ministered. My dad would speak some, but they sang together and sang really well. And Mom played the accordion, and Dad played the trumpet and stuff, but they sang duets and a lot of Beth Ellis songs. So I was raised in it. My aunts and uncles could all do shape notes, Darren, and they could sight read. I mean, they'd gather around a piano, and my dad had gone to stamp school, and one of my uncles sang with a Stamps quartet, one of the Stamps quartets back in the 40s, right after World War II. So all my aunts and uncles were great shape note singers, and I had a lot of cousins that played the piano. So music was kind of just really a way of life, and I just loved it. And went out and heard a Statesman when I was a little boy, and I guess I was maybe 5 or 6, and Jake went over. I was real bashful, believe it or not, and I just couldn't believe I had those records, and they would let me put the records on at home, and I'd listen. I had Jake's solo project and stuff, and loved the Statesman. Well, when I went out to hear Jake, and I'm not sure the age I was little, but I was so bashful. And he must have saw me standing on my dad just staring at him. I mean, it was like I was looking at, a movie star and somebody I'd heard their voice so much, and there he was, And he came out from behind the table and he walked over and he rubbed the top of my head. And it was just kind of a sweet little moment because I was a bashful kid. And he looked at my dad. He said, "I bet that's a fine boy you have here." And Dad said, "Yes, sir." He rubbed the top of me and messed up my hair and looked down and smiled at me and just kind of patted me because I couldn't hardly say anything, And that just, I saw the kindness behind his talent, and it really affected me. And so years later when I got to play piano for him and travel with him, it was a real honor because, more than Mickey Mantle or Roy Rogers and people that I really loved, Jake Hess was one of my favorite people. So that really, inspired me as a kid. It just gave me a real focus for for gospel music and being kind to people.
It's funny how our heroes are when we're kids, and the interaction, the smallest of things will impact a kid that we'll never know. I'll give you an example. I was probably in the 8th grade, and this is before Fellowship of Christian Athletes got real big. But
Right.
Jim Zorn, he was the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks back in the day. He came there and he had his jersey on, and we were sitting in a large church, and the athletes just came in and they went and shook our hands. We were all sitting on various pews, and it wasn't nothing formal. They just came in and talked to us. And I can remember Jim Zorn coming up to me, Tim, and shaking my hand and telling me a little bit about Jesus. And then as we left there, we got on the church bus to go back to our church. And that point, I've never forgotten. I promise you, Jim Zorn don't remember it. But it's funny how little times like that impact our life. And when I hear you tell your story about how Jake Hess impacted your life, you know, I'm certainly no Jake Hess or no Jim Zorn, but there's no doubt, Tim, that you've had an opportunity to probably impact a little kid's life because he's seen you up on that stage, or he's seen me, you know, walking through the grocery store. We never know the impact we're going to have on people, do we?
Exactly, Darren. Just this past week, I did a fundraiser for a Christian school up in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
And I got to go and be with the students that day. They were from kindergarten to seniors.
Mm-hmm.
A really healthy school, a great school. But some of those children just were so precious, especially those younger age, and to get to talk with them and tell them that God has a plan for their life, and that no two children are the same, and that what He has for each child is special, and God has this wonderful plan if we'll follow Him and listen to His voice, and you know, and to see some of those kids, you know, when I have those moments to do that, and I see those kids' eyes just as big as a DeSoto hubcap, you know.
Yeah.
To know that the one who made the entire universe has a plan for my life, and some of those kids today, you know, a lot of children are facing some tough stuff. You know it, Darren.
No
I mean,
doubt.
a lot of them hardly know what family is anymore. You know, or if they do have family, the family's so busy they're not pouring into them. And some kids are blessed to have great family life, but there are a lot of kids that come from a hurting situation, and they need somebody. They need you and me and one of our listeners, you know, out there to go just to take a moment at church and talk to that child a little bit, and not just always be so wrapped up with talking with the adults that we're already friends with, but just to sit down there for a moment with that little 6, 8, 10-year-old and start talking about their life. And boy, those children will never ever forget it.
Tim, you're kind of, and when I use this word, I'm using it in fun, but you're kind of ambidextrous, if you will. People first knew you as a great instrumentalist, okay? Then all of a sudden you started singing a little bit more. Now folks know you as a comedian and may not even know that you're a great instrumentalist. What are you first, my friend? You said you were shy. Does that make you an instrumentalist that turned into a comedian, or have you always been a comedian and you just learned to be an instrumentalist? Which one are you?
Well, I guess you'd say I have a multiple personality and I need medication.
Yeah.
Probably what you're trying to say in a nice way is you've talked to the doctors and the little guys in the white coats, and they're trying to figure me out. Well, you know, I'll give you a real quick overview of my life. Okay,
Go ahead.
I was born in here. Okay, quick overview. Most comedians were bashful as children. Whether they're secular, I don't care who they are. I've read a lot of biographies and autobiographies of comedians. Most were bashful. Most got into school, and they were extremely bashful. They found if they did a little bit of comedy, made a funny face, did something the kids laughed, the pressure was off. They didn't have to converse as much. So most comedians that anyone has ever seen, they were bashful as children. And comedy became a way of life. Then they learned how to do comedy, And then they started enjoying. Little by little, they overcome that, and they're no longer shy. So I was kind of the class clown from first grade up, and so I always enjoyed making people laugh and being.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in South Alabama, around Mobile, Alabama area.
Okay.
I grew up in Saraland and Satsuma, so I went to Saraland Elementary School and Adams Middle School, and then graduated at Satsuma High School. I'm real proud of my alumni there. I got to go back and do something for those folks and a bunch of my classmates last year. But Satsuma Gators and South Alabama, all the way down there, close to the Gulf of Mexico.
Does that make you a Roll Tide or a War Eagle, or are you what are you?
I don't want to start a battle here, boy. We're in a world today. If you talk politics or football, somebody's ready to put you in a shallow grave. And I don't want to start a war, but I'll say this: I grew up when I was little. I grew up in the Bear Bryant days, but my dad went to Auburn. I can't really talk about football. I grew up in Alabama, liking Bear Bryant. He was such a gentleman, and when Alabama would go and play all over the place, and my dad was War Eagle, and I went to South Alabama. Then I married a Buckeye, and I live in the land of the Vols and in Tennessee. I don't talk football. I just sit in the corner and keep my mouth shut and eat popcorn.
Well, I wasn't going to ask you about football, but if you're born in Alabama, on your birth certificate, it has one of three schools. It has Alabama, it has Auburn, or then they've put a slight little place on the far right-hand side now for Troy. So, we needed to know which one you were. So we could dissect your demographic here. And
yeah. Well, I was raised an Alabama fan, but I trust you because I love people and I love the Lord more than football, and I love football.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to ever alienate anybody, because the way I look at it, when each team is playing, that's a whole bunch of boys out there, 18, 22 years old, giving it all they got. And so, to me, football is fun, and I can't say that I hate some other team like some people do.
Because Tim, you could actually Dixie chick yourself in Alabama if you wasn't careful by saying that. You realize that, don't you?
Exactly, and I've had friends that have played on both sides of it, and I just, I'd rather have friends than to say I hate your school. So, but Alabama is known for its football. It's known for building space rockets, and it's a lot of great music came out of Alabama. And I live up here now near Knoxville, Tennessee, where a lot of great music is.
Yes,
so
sir.
I love it here in the mountains. You got me excited now. I'm starting to stutter a little bit. Hey, I tell you what, I'm gonna go back. I never did really answer your question.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go
please.
back to this. Okay. I was, back to school. That I was kind of the class clown, but I love music, so I started, playing piano. Didn't have lessons, and I just loved piano, and started picking guitar and had a little ukulele and picking around and stuff, and then I played horns in band. But I was actually working in a recording studio, playing in a group, Darren, playing in a group, and Les Beasley, Darryl Stewart was having some health issues, and Les hired me at different times to play piano for them. So I was a piano player in the studio. Piano was my main instrument, but then when they hired me to be a backup piano player because of Darryl's health issues, well, then Darryl health kind of straightened out, and he didn't go back really in the hospital, I guess, for almost 9 years. I was with him 9 years. Well, they put me on other instruments. So the people in Southern Gospel got to thinking of me as banjo and mandolin and dobro and harmonica and stuff like that, because the Florida boys would, put me on different instruments. And so I started doing the jam session at NQC. So a lot of people that hadn't seen me in the Deep South, they saw me out west or up north or Canada or something with the Florida boys. They only saw me as a banjo or harmonica or something. Does that make any sense?
Makes perfect. That's I'm gonna tell you. I was a DJ in the business, and I had no idea. Okay, back in those days, I thought, quite frankly, what Les was trying to do was trying to find him a rabbit Easter. They could play anything and play it well. And
so they would, like, they do a new record. You'd say, hey, get a play an intro on the mandolin on this song, and or something, or he'd just tell me, and hey, we want you to play a banjo solo on this, and I'm like, okay. But I was really, piano was my main instrument, but I wasn't playing piano. So then when I played for a little while after I left Florida Boys and Kingsman, but I played piano there, so that kind of confused everybody.
Yeah.
and then the short version is then Bill Gaither used me on that comedy thing on Joy in the Camp video. So that was in the highlight of the Gaither videos when they were like selling the most. So it went like multi-platinum and all that stuff. Well, then people overseas and all that, when they saw that, they didn't see me playing piano or banjo or anything. They saw me as comedy. So then they started calling, asking me to come to do a comedy banquet or a comedy show or whatever. So ta-da, here I am, and I guess when I'm like 90, I'm going to get a job. I don't know. I'm just, I enjoy picking there, and I love music. So I didn't want to just do, when I go now to do comedy, after the Lord opened these doors with comedy, I didn't want to go and just do an hour of stand-up because I love music so much. So I can still do some fun songs, Coffee Song and The Cure, Chrome, and What Happened to Tomatoes. I can do some picking and go to the guitar and go to the piano and still get the music, and enjoy it. And hopefully it gives a little more variety for the people. They're not just getting an hour of me just standing doing comedy or standing, talking, but I'm kind of running around and makes a little more of a one-man variety show,
Tim, you get the opportunity a lot of gospel music people would love to have. And what I mean by that is not only do you get to play on some of the bigger gospel dates, but you get to fish out of the gospel pond, so to speak, and go to places like, believe it or not, my brother just saw you up in Seattle, I believe, at the fair, up there, and he called me and said, this gospel guy up there? And yeah, I've talked to him a time or two. Do you think you're an advantage being able to do what you do and not being stuck, so to speak, in that gospel music circuit, and not only entertaining folks and telling them good Christian values and good Christian comedy and sharing Jesus? Is that an advantage you've got, do you think?
Well, I do think it's a wonderful opportunity. God just seems to be opening more and more doors outside of the gospel world, and I'll never leave the gospel world because I'm a Christian first, and I love gospel music. But what I see, Darren, is this: when God started opening a lot of doors in different places, my dad always said that God would make us fishers of men, and you got to put that bait on there sometimes before you can reach them. And plus there are there's always been kind of a marriage between gospel and country, or gospel and bluegrass.
Yeah.
And yet I can go to a CCM church, I can go to a praise and worship church, I can go to a Southern Gospel church.
Yeah.
Because what I do, I can do it, at a bluegrass festival. I can do it on WSM radio. I can do it at a corporate event, and it's all the same.
Yeah.
I don't have to really change and go, well, now I need to do different kind of music here, and I need to do different kind of stories. I could do living in a coffee world, corporate, country, bluegrass, gospel.
Yeah.
So, but the neat thing is I can go places where there are no gospel groups, and maybe there's just 2 or 3 country groups, or are open for some of the country. Josh Turner or High Valley's doing a great job with all the young kids. They've got they've got 18, 20-year-old, 16-year-old country fans out there, and whoever, and I do one like with Bill Anderson with his crowd or different ones, and go in and do clean comedy. But then I can tell them that I found real joy in serving Jesus Christ, and so yeah, I'm loving it because it seems like more and more these days I'm going to places I've never been before.
And another thing you can do and make jokes about, which is fun for people like me to hear, is you can talk about the difference between wet foot and dry foot Baptist churches that we all grew up in back in the day. So,
yeah, exactly.
And explain to the rest of the world the passion and the fun that we experienced as a child, which we now look at and kind of laugh sometimes. Tim, who was your favorite? I mean, did you think you were going to be a comedian? I mean, even when you were back playing with the Florida Boys, did you ever think, man, I'm gonna follow Wendy Bagwell, I'm gonna follow Shonda Pierce, I'm gonna get into this comedy thing? Was you ever thinking that, or did it just kind of happen with the Gaither situation?
Yeah, no, I mean, every group I look back on it would use me for a little comic relief stuff, and if something went wrong or the sound went out or some instrument quit, something happened, a lot of times they would turn to me to kill some time. And so I was, Les right away, probably back in the 80s, started with him, would do like one crazy song each night. I do something on the banjo, or Daryl and I do a little comedy thing together. So I never set out to do it, but it's kind of like every time I got in a group, they would use me to do something. And I was focused on my music, picking, and I enjoyed doing the comedy, but it wasn't like going, I want to be a comedian someday, Mm-hmm. And so first time worked over like the Opryland, the park they had over there, and mm-hmm. Shonda was doing her Minnie Pearl,
right.
segment where she would act like Minnie, and I'd go out and do a little comedy, and we'd kind of, talk about some of that stuff. But I think most people didn't set out to do it. I don't really know all of Mark Lowry's story, but I know that he was singing in the early days, and I know Swan was preaching, but it's just kind of like, I just think, a lot of comedians just have a way to deliver a story, and Aaron Wilburn he's a great friend of mine, and Aaron, was picking and great songwriter and picking with the Goodmans and stuff, and I think it just kind of evolves, and you never set out to do it. You kind of born crazy and relapse twice, but you're focused on your music, and little by little, everybody keeps asking, do another funny song or do this or tell another story, and all of a sudden one day the promoters are calling saying, let's do this, and so I think it's just a kind of a series of events. It just evolves.
Scott Fowler told me a story one time when I was talking to him about Legacy 5 and his days with the Cathedrals. And he told me that George, when he would get back on the bus at night, would go over the jokes or his spots of being an MC in his head, so he would learn to deliver them better for the next show or the next crowd to win people over in a more proper way or a more entertaining way or in a more spiritual way and that sort of thing. And that George studied other MCs. You're a historian, because we've talked before, and you told me about the Statesman, you've told me about Jake, and if I asked you
mm-hmm.
historical questions, you know them. Is there anybody you've studied as far as the comedian side goes that you've said you've watched them on how they deliver? Not that you're taking their jokes, but you've watched
right.
their craft. Is there anybody out there that you've like, man, if I could get to that place, or man, he did that just right, or is there anybody out there that comes to mind?
That's a good question, Darren. Well, one thing I don't like today listen to a lot of the comedians that are out there, especially on the gospel circuit, mm-hmm. just because a lot of times we can be thinking some of the same things, like we notice something happening in America or we notice something. Well, if I'm watching 2 or 3 of the guys or they're out there doing it right now, I'm watching their latest DVDs and listening to their stuff, I don't want to subconsciously be taking anything from them.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody says, oh, you told a story about a dog and Ken told a story about a dog or Swan told a story, I want to know that mine came from me writing it. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So it's totally different. So I really don't listen to a lot of their stuff, and because we try to write our own stuff and keep it separate. Although I've got a great respect for all my friends out there, but I would say my influences there, and that's a great question, would be when I was younger. And I wasn't even thinking about being a full-time comedian, but Red Skelton, when I was little, blew me away. And also Jack Benny. And because I just, and I still love to watch some of those old, pull up a black and white on some of those guys. Because do you hear a beat coming in?
I hear a beep.
I'm getting.
Yeah,
I'm getting a call. So if y'all hear that beep, it's not the aliens coming to pick me up, but
it's somebody wanting to book you for a date. So.
Yes, there you go. And but some of those guys, that timing there in those days when George Burns or Jack Benny, when they could say a line and stop and let it breathe, and he could just turn and give one look, and the audience would start laughing. I love that. I love that timing and reading the crowd and letting the joke breathe and knowing when to come back in with the next word and stuff. I would just think, how does Jack Benny make people laugh sometime, and all he's doing is slowly turning his head,
Yeah.
And I realized that it was not just the words, but sometime it was a look, and sometime it was the pause that was just as effective as what he said. And so those guys in the early days, I just sit there and just be. I was probably a student and didn't know it.
For me, I laugh at silly things. I mean, just my favorite TV show of all time is Seinfeld. Okay, it just
Okay.
is. I laugh, and George Costanza to me is not funny, but his actions are funny, and I laugh at everything the guy does on that show. You follow what I'm saying? If you've ever seen the show, which I'm pretty sure you have. Most people have.
Yeah.
Who is the funniest person that you've seen that don't try to be funny?
Well,
that you can just think of off the top of your head, that when you get in a room with them or you see them on TV, you just laugh. Or
well, let's bring it down to our world. People who crack me up sometimes who's not even trying. Karen Peck cracks me up when she's not even trying. But Karen can just say, Ricky and I were stopping by to get an ice cream, and she starts to tell the story, and she's not trying to be funny, and Ricky's just shaking his head, and she's laying me out.
Yeah.
Karen, she is funny, but she also can be funny when she's not even trying to be. And I love that when some people are not even trying too hard. She just tells a story, and it's funny. It's funny.
Let me give you another one that we've become great friends with that you're going to laugh when I tell you this. You know who is funny? And he don't even mean to be funny. Eli Fortner is funny with the McCameys. Peg's grandson.
Yes, and he has that dry wit, too.
He's like,
he can just
2 words. But you're right about Karen. Karen is hilarious, and I kid Karen all the time, and she's been on the show a couple times. And I said, Karen, the great thing about you is you never use a period. So I don't have to, ask you more than 4 questions in 30 minutes.
Yeah. She is. They're just sweet as can be. And you talking about Eli. We've got so many people in that younger generation that are that generation that I'm so proud of. And
yeah.
And Matthew Gooch. I did a concept video on living in a coffee world.
Yeah.
And people can look that up and everything. Well, anyway, I had Matthew. He was the barista in there, and he can just he has little looks that where he's a combination of his mom and dad, obviously, but also his personality, and he just lays me out, and somebody else that I think has a great sense of humor is Morgan Easter.
You know what? I was about to say Morgan or Jeff, either one. Either.
And Jeff, of course, we already know. Everybody knows that Jeff is so funny and great MC, and just he's so funny. But Morgan has that great blend of her mom and dad. But that generation, I just feel really good that the ones coming up behind all of us, are just there's so many that love the Lord and are finding who they are, and their own unique personality. So it's a beautiful thing, Darren.
I'm gonna share something. I'm gonna share this with you about Morgan, and I know we got to get out of here, and I want you to tell everybody about your stuff. But we were talking to Morgan on the air not too long ago. We do a concept on youth and gospel music, and I told Morgan, I said she was asking me how the podcast was going, and we were telling her, and I said one of the people I want to get on the podcast before long is your uncle, Little Roy, because he's hilarious. And she said, I hope podcasts are like radio where you have that dump button, that bleep button, because everything Little Roy says people might not want to hear. So we were just dying laughing as we were talking about that. But good people. And
we didn't talk about the TV show that I'm hosting, a Music City show, and you said Little Roy. It reminded me, and our folks can tune in to that. We own Heartland and TCT and National Religious Broadcasting, a lot of different channels, the Music City show.
Right.
So the very best, absolutely the very best, it sounded like an ad there, the very best in gospel music, we have on there Booth Brothers and Greater Vision and Ernie Legacy, all of them, country folks on there, and Oak Ridge. Well, when you said Little Roy, had Little Roy on there one of the last tapings, and at the end, as I'm looking at the teleprompter and we have a studio audience, I'm talking, Little Roy's already been on there doing his thing, and Lizzie, and I'm talking to the crowd, the cameras are rolling, we're closing out, so glad y'all tuned in. I felt something on my leg, down around my ankle, and I'm talking, and there's the audience clapping, and I'm closing out and getting all the announcements in, and want to make sure I, point to the band and get everything going and laughing. And I feel something on my ankle, and I look down, and Little Roy, he's now in his 70s. He's down on the floor, laying on the floor, got his head on my ankle, rubbing on it like a cat rubbing on a person's leg. He's going up and down my ankle, rubbing his head, messing up his hair, stroking my ankle as I'm saying goodbye to everybody. And I thought, there is only one Little Roy Lewis. For sure, he laid me out. Of course, I had to wing it from there. I mean, the teleprompter was gone because he fractured me right there. Hey, but I want to say too, Darren, before we go, that if I want to give out a couple of thank yous if I can.
As many as you want. Whoever, what do you want? You just take time. That's the cool thing about podcasts, Tim, is we don't have a time limit. We can sit here. We can sit here for 8 hours if we wanted to. But
that's awesome. I still got to have a cup of coffee.
That's right.
But I want to say thank you to you and Arthur and everything. Known Arthur for a long time, and he does such a great job over there. Not only the Kingdom Heirs, but what all he's doing with the Hall of Fame. And there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and I appreciate all of that. In fact, my current project, Living in a Coffee World, the one we're talking about, that we've been blessed with how it's been doing, Billboard and stuff. Well, Arthur did all the mixing on that and did a lot of work behind the scene. He's just a great friend and a great talent. And I want to thank Stowtown Records. It sounds like I'm receiving an award, but I want to mention these people because, we're talking about the doors opening up outside and a lot of different things. And the Lord's just doing some really neat things. And I'm really humbled and honored, but things don't happen without the Lord and a team. And so right. I appreciate Stowtown and all that they do. It's pretty easy to go, well, I'm doing this, or I went here, or I did the blah, blah, blah. Well, it's only the Lord and then if anything else happens, the Lord uses other people, everybody to work together, teamwork, so we can get the message out there. But, I appreciate Stowtown Records and everything they've done with this project, and Sony and Provident and all them. So I appreciate them allowing me to have the freedom to do what I want to do as far as, clean comedy.
Yeah.
Because the world is, America, we got enough junk in this world. We need some clean stuff that families can listen to. And boy, I couldn't do it without my sweet wife, Mary Alice. I tell you what, there she's smart. People say, well, why did she marry you? I said, man, I asked her to marry me before she got her eyes checked. That's the secret right there. But Mary Alice, and my two girls, Gabrielle and Gracie, I'm just a blessed man. I really am. I got a wonderful wife and girls, and they support me, and I do my best to support them. And we got a short time here, Darren, and
Yeah.
I told somebody, I said, I don't want to be, and this is, I'm not trying to puff anything goes. Anybody knows me, I want to be just as real can be. But I told somebody today, I don't want to be a good husband, and I don't want to be a good father. I want to be a godly husband. I want to be a godly father. And and every day we got to ask the Lord to give us more grace and strength, and like George Yonch, you said, working on those jokes. The Holy Spirit can work on us to be better and better, and take time with those children and children that are outside of our world, outside of our home, like we were saying earlier. So I want to thank my family and everything for and that we can do all this, Darren, and I appreciate what you all are doing. I think this is a real neat thing y'all are doing, because I think the people get to see the heart of the artist more than just standing up and singing a song, or standing up and doing a joke.
Well, Tim, we appreciate that, and you, for folks that don't realize this, you have dominated Billboard's comedy charts for a year, okay? And when I say dominate, that means you've so. And folks, we're not just talking Billboard Christian music. We're talking comedy charts, where that includes folks like Jeff Foxworthy. That includes folks like Ricky Smiley. That includes folks like Shonda Pierce. Your project is dominating, number one. And I like what you said about you giving it to the Lord. You follow what I'm saying? And it is what it is.
Well, and I'll start squalling, as they say in South Alabama. But the bottom line is, it really is a short amount of time we're here.
Yeah.
And America's real divided in a lot of ways, and we need more love. And as Christians, we're supposed to have the most love. And if we have any enemies out there, we're supposed to pray for them. And we're supposed to really encourage others. And I want to use this platform where I can get my foot in colleges and get my foot in settings that are not necessarily a church setting, to show people that we don't have to be off color to be funny. We don't have to be off color to be cool. We can do everything crystal clean, but at the bottom and at the end of the day, that we can tell them about a Savior. Because if it's just words and we can't live it out there, and it's shallow and it's hollow.
Yeah.
But what he did when that I knew him when I was a kid. I knew about him. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But when I met him, it really changed everything. I just got to experience somebody getting saved not too long ago, and to see their countenance change. Sometimes when you really get to experience that and just see what Christ really does when we go beyond religion. Oh, my grandpa was a Baptist, and I was raised a Baptist, or I was raised a Methodist, or I'm whatever. No, that church title and name over a church is not going to get us to heaven. But when we meet Christ, everything has changed. So I just pray that everybody listening out there really knows for a fact that they're saved, and then that is joy that you cannot contain. It'll make you. It will force you in a sweet, precious way to want to tell others when your life has been changed. And I know he did that for me, Darren. He just totally.
Take your time, buddy.
He just, you know
what? That's what people like to hear, Tim. They like to hear real. And my friend, you've been real with us today. God's blessed you for a reason. He's put you in places for a reason. And that's all we can hope for. And it's like you keep saying, you've said it twice that I've noticed in the show. We're here for a short time. We're here for a short time. I'm 48 years old, and it doesn't seem like that long ago when I was 8 or 9. And it doesn't seem like that long ago when, think about this. You go back to that 4th Gaither video you did and look at it now and see who's already gone on to glory and who's waiting on you on the other side. So, man, you've been a blessing, my friend.
Well, I sure do appreciate it, and I don't. My favorite saying, one of my favorite sayings is, "If the eyes leak, the head won't swell." So, I'm not ashamed at all for crying there, but I just I really appreciate all of our people out there and everybody coming out, and if this doesn't sound too business like, I really want you folks to come out. A lot of times I'm in an area where maybe they don't know I'm going to be. So check my website. It's,
go ahead and tell them where. Go. You learned how to do this from Les Beasley probably better than anybody because you trained under the master. Go ahead and give your pitch. Go ahead and give your pitch here at the end.
Well, absolutely. Les is a fantastic businessman, and I wouldn't be talking to you right now if Les hadn't hired me.
Yeah.
But TimLovelace.com, LOVELACE, TimLovelace.com, and I know a lot of you folks do Facebook. Some of them do Twitter, and a few of them out there do Instagram. So you can go to my website if you want to and just click on to either one of those, or just look me up the old-fashioned way. But a lot of times I'll do concerts in an area, and I know this a podcast goes all over, and I'll have people come up and say, "Well, you don't play Iowa," and I say, "I was there 3 weeks ago." "Well, do you ever come to Nebraska?" "I was just there." "Well, I bet you, have you ever played Winnipeg?" And I go, "Yeah," and so a lot of times I may just be 15 minutes down the road from somebody. So check that website and come out when I'm going to be in the area, and we'll have a lot of fun, and I'll do a lot of crazy stuff from this Living in a Coffee World DVD and CD. If you don't have a copy, go out to your bookstores or Lifeway or Amazon or download it or go to my website or whatever. I've got a section on there too, Darren, that really means a lot to me because I address the issue of bullying, and it's such a terrible thing happening all across America. So any of you parents or grandparents that maybe have a kid that's in school, you get this new project. I've got one special spot on there where I tell about some bullying I went through and tell a humorous story, but it gives me a platform then to talk to the kids directly and talk to them about what to do if they're being bullied and to get to the bottom of it, because we've got too many kids out there, and they're giving up on life.
That's it.
They're being bullied, and they feel so terrible with social bullying, Darren. It's awful. And we've got 10 and 12 and 14-year-olds and on up college age, they're giving up on life because of a bully. And so it breaks my heart so much until on this last project I said I've got to find a way. And so when Mary Alice reminded me of a story that when I was a child, I've told it a couple of times. She said you could tell that story and then talk about bullying, and it was a perfect segue. I could do it, and they're all laughing about me learning karate and trying to do everything to protect myself, and I was getting beat up in school and joked and stuff, but the humor story, me practicing my Tai Chi and doing all this stuff and taking on that bully and just trying to survive the 5th grade. I mean, it's a hilarious story, but at the same time, it wasn't hilarious when I was going through it. I tell these kids, I survived. I can laugh about it now because I made it through. But some of these kids, I said, you're facing it right now, and it's not funny.
Not at all.
So anyway, if some of you parents, grandparents out there, to me, the DVD, that's one of the main things I want to do is to try to help some of these kids, because our kids are too precious. They're giving up on life because of someone else. And of course, we all know, Darren, those kids who are bullying, they've usually been bullied themselves, or they're living in terrible conditions at home, and so they're trying to find themselves, and it's just a big cycle, and we've got to fight it.
Buddy, I appreciate your time so much. We'll do this again sometime before long. Again, TimLovelace.com. You know his project, you know his heart now, and you know the fun he does. And like he said, go to his website, because he pops in, he pops off, and he pops on. So pops on back home. Tim, I appreciate it again, my friend, okay?
I really do appreciate it, and we'll do it again. And take care. Tell Arthur when he goes out there to play golf, whatever he does, don't cheat, okay?
He's bad at that. He is bad. He is bad at that. Tim's a funny guy, isn't he, Arthur?
He is hilarious. He really is.
You know what I loved about him in that interview is he gets pretty serious about things, and the biggest thing about these guys, and a lot of times, this is me, the fan, okay? But you really, when you're talking to folks that are on stage all the time, or singers or pastors or people, is a lot of times when they get down to talking about Jesus, you see them from afar and you think, well, that's part of their shtick, okay? But then from time to time, when you get to talk to these people one-on-one, and you've had these one-on-one conversations with artists and pastors through the years, you know it's not their shtick. And with Tim, it's not his shtick. He just truly loves Jesus.
Yeah.
And he's in love with him. He's in love with him.
Yeah.
And which makes it great. Hey, last week we talked a little bit about the Redback hymnals, Arthur, and I called some numbers out to you last week. I'm not going to call numbers out to you this week because I might mess up not remembering the numbers. You want to try it with me? Do you know any of the numbers off the top of your head either?
Oh, it's funny. I used to know all of those, and now I don't know. I'm not getting any younger, So now I have to ask the young guys, what page is that?
You know what?
We do a hymn section every program. People love those hymns, and of course we love singing them. So, people holler out numbers for us to do, and that sort of thing. So we love singing that in the book.
I participated in a hymn singing a couple of weeks back, okay, with my good friend Lamar Newton and Jeff Nunley. And as I was here was the hard part for me, okay? Now, I've been trained in music, so I've sung in choirs, so I know where the tenor line is, okay? Yeah. I know what line I'm supposed to sing. And if I can't hit it, I just drop down and sing the bass line, okay?
Right.
But growing up in the Wetfoot Amillennial Church, Baptist Church back in the day, the men always sang the lead, okay, no matter what.
Uh-huh.
All right? We sang the top soprano line that most of these Red Book songs are written after, okay? So, they would call a song out. I mean, like, His Love Lights the Way, okay? I couldn't tell you what page it's on, but I can sing the song. You follow me? Because it's been it's drugged in me, so to speak. Yeah. I mean, it's ingrained in me. I've left the old past. I've traveled so long. I'm happy, redeemed, and free, blah, 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 blah. You know those songs, what a friend we have in Jesus, blah, blah. Isn't it hilarious how when we were younger, you would sing those songs and you wouldn't even need the book? And if you think about it, I can't even remember a time when I quit using the book, but I just didn't pick it up. And I know. Does that make any sense?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
If I said to you today, Arthur, sing for me When We All Get to Heaven. Now, if I put you on the spot and I made you quote the words right now, I promise you'd probably mess up. However, if a group started to sing and you heard the keys for the piano to play, would you miss a word? Would you miss many words?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we could even make that harder. I mean, everybody knows that song, but I mean, glory to his name.
Yep.
You know, I mean, you can think of those songs, and those are some great, great songs. You know, the Eastern Gate and all that kind of stuff. We got to get my buddy Lamar on here talking about those great hymns. And, you know, you talked a little bit last week about how about Hamill did 166. Did Hamill ever throw y'all a curve with one of those hymns that y'all didn't know was coming? And he said, boys, let's go back to the old redback hymn, or let's go to the old hymn of the church and sing this. And y'all best know it. Do you ever recall a time like that?
Oh, we'd have that all the time because, you know, people would just holler out songs for us to do, and you know, we'd throw it together best we could. But you're right, you know, you do those songs by heart, and all it took, even at the time you think, I can't remember that song. As soon as the band start playing it, you go, oh yeah, there it is, and the words would just come out.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yep.
I'll ask you this because I know the answer in my household. I've got a 25 and 22-year-old. Okay, they have sang out of the book, but I doubt that either one of them at this point in time in their life could quote the songs like you or I could.
Oh no.
Is your kids the same
It's
way?
a different time. Yeah, my boys are the same way. Yeah, my boys are the same way. It's a different time.
Yeah.
You know. Of course, you know, they can sing and quote the praise and worship stuff, and I'm standing there just I don't know. you know.
Now we better not talk about too much that praise and worship stuff, because there's certain listeners out there that'll damn you and me to hell for teaching our kids praise and worship songs.
Well, it all has its place.
It does. It does.
And here's the thing: a lot of people don't understand or really look over about the old hymns, is why they were so important. Is, you know, we learned a lot of our doctrine from those hymns.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of our Bible doctrine come from singing those hymns.
Yeah.
You know, that become a part of our lives. That's how we got our doctrine a lot of times. A lot of the old country preachers, they didn't preach so much on doctrine as much as just in their message, but so we got them through the songs.
And you know, and I'll give you a perfect doctrinal example. Okay, you know the reason I don't live in the country no more? Because I left the old paths. I traveled so long. I'm now happy, redeemed, and free that I live in the city of Atlanta. How about that? Does that work?
Yeah, exactly.
Man, that's bad. That's almost blasphemous. I don't even need to say that. But anyway, it's fun. And, you know, we love those hymns and love those times. Tim's a great interview. He's got a great heart. Go see him if you get a chance, if he's in your area.
Yes.
If you need a laugh, go to his YouTube channel, watch his stuff, listen to his music. Great writer, great friend of the show, great friend to Arthur, great friend all the way around. Arthur, coming up in a few weeks, we got some surprises. By the way, congratulations on winning your award up there at Creekside. Living legend, Arthur Rice.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Man,
very honored. Very honored.
What'd you do with the award?
I've got it where I can see it every day.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Only thing I've gotten on my own. Everything else has been group oriented, and which is why, you know, that's just me. You know, I love being a part of a group, and
right.
To me that is important because it's not just an individual, and but I'm very honored and very humbled to be chosen.
Well, I appreciate you, my friend, and I appreciate your friendship to the show and being a part of it for so long, man. We've done this now for 5 months, and we'll keep going. Want to remind everybody before we get off, again, the holidays are coming up. Please, this don't cost you one red dime. It don't cost you anything. But call our sponsor, the Addiction Helpline. You say, Darren, Arthur, I don't have an addiction. No, but guess what? Just like a track, you may want to hand the information out to somebody, a friend or a family member, and they'll send it to you. 1-800-980-1761. 1-800-980-1761. The Addiction Helpline. They'll help somebody you know. If you could help somebody this day and time. Remember, Congress and the Senate just passed, and the President just signed a $8 billion bill to fund opiate addiction, methamphetamine addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. There's help out there for you. 1-800-980-1761. And Arthur, I'm going to go back to a show we did a couple of weeks ago, and I know we got to get out of here. But Russ Taff said it so well. You can hide it real easy. He hit it real easy. And we've got friends, Arthur, that's hiding it right now today. So you've got friends, family.
And the holidays are a great time too, because there's a lot of people have trouble during holidays.
Yep.
And that's a great time to be watchful for somebody that might have an addiction to something that needs some help.
Yep. So when the world's going crazy, just tell them about Jesus. Arthur, one last thing I want to ask you. We say this at the end of every show. What's wrong with living right anyway?
Not a thing.
All right, my friend. We'll talk to you soon right here on SGNP.
SGNP is excited you chose to listen today. If you'd kindly leave a remark and rating in the podcast remarks section, we surely would appreciate it. Please share with a friend or family member. Look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and our new website, southerngospelnewspodcast.com. To advertise your products, services, concert event, or new project on SGNP and reach a 100% guaranteed number of people in your area, call Tim Newton at 770-874-3200 or email him today, tnewton@bgadgroup.com. Let us geo-target our ads for you, something radio nor magazine can do.
Hey, this is Darien Southerland. Before I close, I want to thank our affiliates out there. WLJA in North Georgia, KWFC in Springdale, Arkansas. The new one, The Andrew Burnett Show, heard all across the country, and online, TheLightAtlanta.com, playing Southern gospel music online. We're adding affiliates every day. We're partnering with Ken and the folks over there at Gospel Music TV real soon. So we look forward to that partnership. If your gospel music entity would love to partner with SGMP, get a hold of us. It's real simple. Folks, here's the deal. We've reached out to literally every form of media in gospel music. If we've missed you, I'm sorry. But we've had great partnerships with folks like Paul Heil and others. If you haven't heard someone on the air, it's not because we hadn't reached out. We hope everyone is successful, no matter if they're a radio station, a magazine, a website, a group, whomever it is. God bless you, and let's make gospel music better than it was today.
Ever wonder
tomorrow.
how the credit
Easy
card
enough?
companies make their money? Well, think about this. If you owe $25,000 on 5 different credit cards and you make your minimum payments every month, here's what it's going to cost you. Are you sitting down? You'll shell out over $13,000 in additional interest, and it's going to take over 13 years to pay off your original $25,000 balance. That's how they make money. Now it's your turn to fight back by calling the Debt Solutions Network. We'll work on your behalf to reduce your debt. We specialize in credit cards, retail store cards, and medical bills. We promise we can and will reduce your debt. Call right now for a free 15-minute debt analysis. 877-490-1207. 877-490-1207. 877-490-1207.